Change going forward. Olympians with ties to Utah are honored at the state capitol. What they say they're looking forward to next.
Tonight at 6:30.
All right, we'll see you then, Danny. Thank you. Olympians with ties to Utah received a special honor today at the Utah State Capitol. They're also looking ahead to the 2034 games in Utah. News specialist Daniel Woodruff joins us live from the Capitol with more. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, Debbie. Those athletes who competed in the Paris 2024 Summer Games were honored today in the Utah House and Senate for their competition and their achievements and for what they have contributed to the state's culture of sport.
Utah has long been a hub for elite training. Our universities and communities continue to shape some of the world's best competitors.
The athletes recognized today competed in a variety of events in Paris for the heptathlon, speed climbing, and discus throwing. They told us they're looking forward to competing in future Olympic Games and having the Winter Games return to Utah in 2034.
There's something about just being in the energy of the Olympics, and it's so exciting that we have the opportunity to bring it back to Utah, because this is like our home, and this is like, we love the community that we are in when it's not an Olympic Games. But then when it's an Olympic Games, the vibes are just so great as an athlete, but also as a spectator.
Now, this week, the Utah legislature advanced a bill that further lays the groundwork for Utah to host those games in 2034. And it was recently announced former House Speaker Brad Wilson will be the CEO of the organizing committee for the 2034 games. At the Capitol, Daniel Woodruff, live at 5.
Daniel, thank you. A bill imposing mandatory jail.
New at 6, the clock runs out on a bill to end daylight saving time. Why lawmakers chose to table the measure. Plus, new developments in the fight over public records. The one change that's heading to Governor Cox's desk. On KSL-5 News at 6.
What firefighters say went wrong.
It's a big issue for a lot of families. And the fact that somebody can't adjust their golf game by an hour, I think is kind of crazy.
Daylight saving time is sticking around in Utah for a little bit longer. The reason lawmakers halted the bill aimed at getting rid of it.
We do our best to
much we'll get, and when it moves out, it's all straight ahead.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin. Nearly 3 years after Russia invaded Ukraine, President Trump is criticizing Ukraine's president, calling him a dictator. Some Utah Republicans are pushing back on that, including Senator John Curtis, who defended President Volodymyr Zelensky and praised his leadership.
I'm a strong Ukraine supporter, but I've also learned not to outguess the president's negotiating tactics. And so I think we do need to let this play out. And I think I'm hopeful that we'll find a solution that doesn't give Putin a victory.
Other Utah Republicans like Senate President Stuart Adams are also defending Ukraine's leader, who visited Utah last year. Russia invaded Ukraine nearly 3 years ago on February 24, 2022, and that war continues today. In Ogden, federal workers joining together.
Committee.
Utah will not be ditching daylight saving time anytime soon. Lawmakers put the brakes on a bill which would have actually allowed it.
News specialist Daniel Woodruff is at the Capitol to explain why the effort failed, should we say again this year.
The reality here is that this bill was always going to face an uphill battle in the Utah Senate. A group of senators today expressed sympathy for the issue, but ended up kicking the can down the road again. As lawmakers debated doing away with daylight saving time, Stacy Muhlstein of Monticello shared her story.
For those of us with autistic children, we deal with more severe meltdowns and behaviors in the weeks following the time change due to the unnecessary disruptions in their sleep schedule and routine.
Others offered similar concerns, but this Senate committee decided not to advance a bill ditching daylight saving and keeping Utah on standard time. The bill had already passed the House of Representatives with more than 50 votes.
We like to brag in the House that we're closest to the people, and I think that was reflected in the vote.
Representative Joseph Elison argued the clock switching just needs to stop, but he ran into opposition from groups like the Utah Golf Alliance.
It will be a very negative impact on the game of golf.
That industry said it needs that later daylight during summer evenings, while the Home Builders Association said it needs daylight saving time during the mornings.
The effect of this bill on the construction industry will force them into working into the heat of the day during the hot months of the year.
The Senate committee decided not to vote on the bill itself, Senator Todd Weiler instead proposed tabling it, basically halting its progress for the session.
I just don't want to have to go through this again.
I don't think this is going away, Senator Weiler. I think it's going to be coming back over and over until we finally do something.
The legislative session here ends at midnight on March 7th, one day before daylight saving time begins again. Daniel Woodruff, KSL-5 News.
Daniel, thank you. Today, the state Senate issued certificates to Utah resident athletes, which were part of the 2024 Olympic Games. The athletes recognized competed in a variety of events like the heptathlon, speed climbing, and discus throwing. They were honored by the House and Senate for their achievements and what they have contributed to the state's culture of sport.
Utah has long been a hub for elite training. Our universities and communities continue to shape some of the world's best competitors.
Athletes say that they are looking forward to competing in future Olympics and having the games return to Utah in 2034. The Red Barn Academy, a public
report tonight.
West Valley City man could spend the rest of his life in prison for a murder nearly 2 years ago. Malatoni Vaianuku pleaded guilty to intentionally shooting and killing a man just outside the New Yorker Social Club bar in Salt Lake. This was back in June of 2023. He fled the scene and was not arrested until March of 2024. Vaianuku was sentenced 15 years to life in prison and ordered to pay $7,000 to the victim's family. Caught on camera, the moment a wrong